The following Vatsim video has been created by AviationPro for the P1 pilot rating course of the Vatsim Pilot Training Academy. Visit academy.vatsim.net for more information. In this video we're going to discuss flight preparation and weather. I'm going to show you how to do some basic IFR and VFR flight planning, and we're going to show you where to get some useful weather info. And when it comes to flight preparation, there are basically 5 different things you have to do before you're going to make a flight. The first thing is make sure how to operate and fly your aircraft. It's very simple. Make sure you're familiar with your aircraft during every single phase of flight, whether it be the approach or the landing or the takeoff. Make sure you know how to operate and navigate your aircraft through the virtual airspace. Now, as we discussed in the last video, buying one of those payware products can be very useful when flying on the Vatsim network because the cockpit and all its systems are very realistic. Of course, it takes some time to get to know the airplane, so make sure you train offline and make sure you're familiar with your aircraft before going online. Of course, it takes some time and some studying before you really get to know how to operate your airplane, but in the end you will be happy because it just makes flying so much more realistic and easier. Now, when you're going to fly on the Vatsim network, you can fly to every single airport in the world, both IFR and VFR. But in order to do that, we have to get a route. A route is very important for the air traffic controllers, so they know which path you will take from A to B. So let's take a look at a few websites you could use in order to find a valid route. If you're going to fly in Europe, VetRoute is a very nice website that you could use. You can very simply just type in an airport where you're going to fly from. Let's take Zurich, for example, and then we want to go to Paris. We click on go, and there we go. We have 2 valid routes. And as you can see, there are 2 different routes. This one is going through lower airspace, so if you're going to fly a small IFR airplane, you're going to use this route. And this route goes through higher airspace. As you can see, there's a different flight level. If you're going to fly airliners, you can use this route. So if you want to have a more detailed version of the route, you can click here and you can see all the waypoints. Now, this is a valid route. As you can see, a valid route contains the starting waypoint. Basically, this is the waypoint also where the standard instrument departure goes to. So you fly a standard instrument departure and you end up at VBIT. Then you have an airway going to another waypoint, the airway, another waypoint, another airway, another waypoint, another airway, another waypoint. And this is the last waypoint. And this is the waypoint where basically your standard terminal arrival route begins. But we're going to discuss that in the next video when we're going to review charts. So a valid route contains a mix of waypoints and airways. So you're not flying direct from waypoint to waypoint to waypoint. No, you have to enter an airway in between. And these kind of websites will give you a valid route instantly. Another tool you could use is called VRoute. VRoute is also a very nice program that allows you to find valid routes, especially in the US. So there's also a premium version with some more advantages, but you have to buy it. You can also install the free version, which gives you nice routes and also some extra information like weather along your route. So this is a nice tool you could use as well. Now then, another website you could use is called Route Finder. It's also the same thing. Let's say we're going to fly from Amsterdam to Vienna. You can also enter a departure and a destination airport, and then we're going to be presented with a valid route. Now, Route Finder is not always correct, so be aware that you check your route or let air traffic control check your route before you're going to fly it. It's not always correctly, so be aware of that, but air traffic control will always be able to help you if you run into trouble. Now, in the Vatsim Pilot Resource Center, there's also some more links to flight planning tools, flight plan construction here. You can see a lot of websites that you could also use to find your route for your flight from A to B. Now, when you're going to fly VFR, the routing is a little bit different. There's no real route or airway system when flying VFR. Basically, you're using visible landmarks and you're building up your flight plan by entering cities in your route that you're going to fly to. So the ATC has a bit of an idea where you're going to go. So when you're going to fly from A to B using VFR, just build up your route by entering the cities in the route you're going to fly over. If you're gonna stay within the circuit and just going to do touch and goes, putting something in your route like VFR to stay within the circuit will be fine. Of course, when flying VFR, you have to make sure you avoid certain airspaces. There are certain airspaces that are not allowed for VFR airplanes, and there are airspaces where you can fly freely. In the next video, when we're gonna discuss IFR and VFR charts, we're gonna give that a good review. The third thing you're gonna have to do is do some research on your airport you're going to fly from or to. So we're here at the website of the European division of Vatsim, and as you can see here, we can go to countries and we go visit the country we're gonna fly from or to. So let's say we want to fly to Vienna. We're gonna go to Austria, and here we have a link to the website of the VAC of that country. Now make sure you read through all the information right here on the VAC. Usually there is a lot of information available out there that will help you to fly to this country or to the airport you want to fly through. So let's take a look at the pilot section. As you can see, there's a nice information right here, and here we can go to the airport. So let's say we want to fly to Vienna, and as you can see, there's a lot of information you could use. So make sure you do some research before you're going to make a flight. That's quite essential. Make sure you are aware of the procedures. There can be specific procedures that are very important that you would normally not use at your airport. So make sure you give it a good read through. So let's take a look at another example. We want to fly to Prague. We go to the VAC of the Czech Republic. Here's the website again. And as you can see, there's a lot of information right here that will help you out. Some general information for pilots. Make sure you give it a good read through. And also the general information of the airport. As you can see, there's a overview of the runways, the frequencies, the weather. There are some links to the charts and also to some scenery you could use. And also we have here the pilot standard operation procedures. And if we open that, we have a nice overview of all the standard operational procedures at Prague. So if you want to have information about the airport you're going to fly from or to, make sure you visit the VAC of that country, and then you will get a lot of information. Now if you can't find any information about the airport you're going to fly from or to, just use your general knowledge, use the procedures that you would normally use when you're flying to your home airport. If you really have questions, you can always ask that on the Vatsim forums. And of course, in order to really get to know an airport, you just have to fly to the airport. Just experience it, and of course make sure you review the charts very well. If you do this, make sure you're going to visit the airport on a night that there's no much traffic, so air traffic control can help you out whenever it's necessary. Now the fourth thing we're going to talk about is weather. Of course, weather is one of the most important subjects of aviation and flying, and of course when we're going to prepare our flights, we're going to have to be able to make sure that we're aware of the weather situation around us. Now when flying on Vatsim, we're going to use real world weather, so live weather. So for example, if it's raining in Seattle, it's going to be raining in the virtual Seattle in Flight Simulator 2. Now there are a lot of great tools available on the FS market that will give you really nice weather. Think about Active Sky or Real Environment Extreme. They don't only give you a texture update and nice looking clouds, but also provide live weather data. So it's definitely worth buying one of those products. If you want to go freeware, there are also some alternatives, but you won't get as nice textures, and the weather is not always presented to you as realistic as the payware products. Now when flying on Vatsim, it is important to have live weather data, and thanks to these kind of tools like Active Sky, you can have live weather. Luckily there's an option in most payware products that allow you to have the exact same weather as Vatsim, so make sure you check that checkbox if you want to use the exact same weather as Vatsim has. There might be a little bit of difference between the Vatsim weather and other weather databases because there might be some delay, but by checking one of those boxes you can have the exact same weather. So now that you know what weather programs you can use in order to get realistic weather, let's now take a look at how do we check the weather at the airport we're going to arrive or depart from. This is the METAR website of Vatsim. It's basically where we can enter an ICAO code and then we get the METAR of that airport. So let's take Amsterdam for example. With personal search, and as the result we get the latest METAR of Amsterdam. The METAR is the weather information in text format, and you basically have to decode the METAR in order to understand what's in it exactly. So it first starts with an ICAO code, which is Echo Hotel Alpha Mike for Amsterdam. Then it starts with the date, the 6th of February, the time, 11:55 Zulu, that's the Zulu time. Then we have the wind direction, 200 degrees at 60 knots, and that's very important because with the wind direction you can basically decide which runway to use. Now Amsterdam has runway 24, which is usually used as a departure runway. So as you can see, wind is from 200 degrees, so runway 24 is most likely to be used. For landing at Amsterdam, they usually use runway 18 right, and as you can see, because of this wind direction, it's most likely that the combination of departing from runway 24 and landing at runway 18 right is used. So indeed, the wind info is very important because that can help you decide which runway to use when there's no ATC available. Next to the wind we have the visibility. As you can see, it reads 999er, which basically means that the visibility is very good, 10 kilometers or more. We have a few clouds at 2000 feet, the temperature is 8 degrees centigrade and the dew point is 5 degrees centigrade. Next we have the QNH. As you can see, it reads 1000 hectopascals. It's also very important to set the QNH when you're passing the transition level. That's the level at which you're switching from the standard QNH while descending. You switch from the standard QNH to the local QNH. So in this case, it will be 1000. When you're departing from an airport, you're gonna also have to set the latest QNH of the airport. And then when you're passing the transition altitude, which is when you're climbing, you're gonna have to switch to the standard QNH pressure of 1013 hectopascals. And then the last thing, no significant change, meaning there's no significant change expected any soon. So this is the METAR of the airport, and it just gives you a basic idea of what the weather is like at the airport. Now this is another example of taking from the VatMap app using the weather function. As you can see, we have here the METAR of Frankfurt Airport, but also the TAF, and TAF stands for Terminal Aerodrome Forecast. The TAF basically gives you an idea what's going to happen with the weather over time. Of course, the METAR is just an observation on a set time, but the TAF gives you information in text about what the weather is going to be like between different times. So, for example, it's becoming the wind is becoming 100 degrees 5 knots between 15 Zulu time and 18 Zulu time. And also, let's take a look at the last line here. We have between 12 Zulu time, that's already the 7th of February, at 18 Zulu time, there's gonna be very gusty winds. So 220 degrees, 25 knots, and gusting 40. Showers and rain broken at 2000 feet and cumulus clouds. So as you can see, the weather is getting heavy around this time, and yeah, the TEF gives you a good idea of what's going to happen at the airport. And of course, it can help you decide whether to go and fly or not. As you can see, the weather turns very bad at Frankfurt, so maybe it's wise to cancel your flight and pick another destination. So now that we have discussed the METAR and the TEFs, let's take a look at some more professional weather charts. You can basically find them on the internet on weather websites or the weather organization of your country. Also in Professional Flight Planner X by Aerosoft, you get weather charts like this and other flight planners as well. This is an example of a flight plan created using rocketroute.com. And as you can see, we have a very nice overview of all the wind right here. This is the route from Amsterdam to St. Martin, and you basically get an idea of what the wind is going to be like on this route. It also contains some extra charts, like here the routes again. Some significant weather in Europe, turbulence and icing conditions. The icing right here as well. So yeah, those are a few charts that give you an extra information for your route. It's not necessary to read those charts. What's absolutely necessary is to be aware of the weather at the departure and arrival airport. But if you want to go a bit more professional, you can use these charts as well. And then there's one last thing we have to discuss, and that's IMC and VMC. IMC stands for Instrumental Meteorological Conditions, and VMC stands for Visual Meteorological Conditions. The difference between them is that in IMC you're not allowed to fly VFR, but in VMC you are allowed to fly VFR. Now the conditions and rules when it comes to VMC may differ per country. You have to contact your local VAC to get the exact limits for VMC. But you can decide yourself already a little bit, if the cloud ceiling is very low, it's not a good idea to fly VFR. If the visibility is very low and if there's a lot of rain, it's not a good idea to fly VFR. On Vatsim though, of course, some people do want to fly VFR anyways, and we can't really prohibit that. But if you're gonna use clear weather in a flight simulator and not using real weather, put it in your flight plan remarks so that the air traffic controller knows that you're flying VFR under ideal circumstances and that you're not using the real world weather, so that the ATC will know that you are under different weather conditions. So that's basically how flight preparation and weather works on Vatsim. As you can see, it's quite complex sometimes, but yeah, flight preparation is very important. It will just help you to make your flight much easier and will go smoothly. So thanks for watching this video. As I've mentioned before, we're going to discuss charts in the next video. We're going to show you where to find charts and how to read them. So it's very informative, and make sure you watch that video because charts are very, very important when making your flight. So thanks for watching and good luck with flying on Vatsim.